Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette Syndrome. In today's video, I wanted to give you guys a brief rundown all about tics, because I feel like on my channel, I have never actually done a sit-down video where I talk to you guys about different types of tics and explain them to the best of my ability in hopes of letting you guys know what Tourette's is and what it entails. So before I get into it, I just want to let you guys know that in the description I have timestamps letting you know when I'm talking about certain types of tics or different classifications. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, if you're looking for a specific thing, go down there and click on the little timestamp and you'll figure it out from there. If you're new here, hi, I'm Carly, I am 23, and I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome when I was 12. So it's been a fairly long journey of dealing with Tourette's and tics, and I feel like this video is just dedicated to helping you guys understand it a little bit better, because I feel like my disorder is super misunderstood, and we're gonna just debunk some myths here and let you guys know all about it. So before we get started, if you guys could click that little subscribe button and hit the notification bell if you want to stay tuned to educational content as well as some of my life stories with Tourette Syndrome, and just stay tuned and learn with me because I want to break the stigma with your help. Okay, let's start off with the tic video. Hi. I got rice. Keep in mind I'm going to be having tics throughout this video because Tourette's doesn't stop for anything, not even videos, so bear with me, okay? So in the categories of tics, we kind of have two main things to talk about. We have motor tics and we have vocal tics. And this video is going back to the very basics, but I'm going to talk to you guys about motor tics and vocal tics. So motor tics are the physical tics that people with Tourette syndrome experience. So this thing I'm doing, that is a motor tic. How convenient. They're totally involuntary and they're physical, they're movements, hence the name motor. It's a movement, a jerk, a twitch, whatever you want to classify it as, it's physical. Motor tics are physical. And I just want to preface this by saying all tics are involuntary. Now, on the other hand, we have vocal tics. And as the name suggests, vocal tics are the sound tics or the vocalization tics. This vocal I got rice. That's a vocal tic. So vocal tics basically cause individuals with Tourette's to verbalize different sounds, words, phrases, kind of whatever. Any noise you can make or anything that can come out as a sound, that's a vocal tic. So that's the brief rundown, motor and vocal. Now, in the categories of motor and vocal tics, we also have simple tics and complex tics. And this sounds a little bit complicated, but hear me out. I'm going to try and explain it to you the best I can. So there can be simple motor tics and simple vocal tics, as well as complex motor tics and complex vocal tics. They're two different classifications of tics. So simple tics are basically what the name suggests. They're simple. They're small and typically involve one movement or sound. They're not very advanced. They're just a simple thing. Very basic. So an example that I always talk about with simple tics is eye blinking, because it's just one part of me and it's just blinking, and that is something that is simple and easy and basic, and it's just a one muscle part and it's just a simple motor tic. So this simple motor tic isn't connected to any other tics. But on the other hand, we have complex tics, so both motor and vocal. And a complex tic almost involves multiple tics in one kind of thing. So one of my common examples of a complex tic is if I'm walking sometimes, I will roll my eyes up, put my tongue to the roof of my mouth, jerk my neck, and tense my legs all at the same time. And this clearly involves multiple body parts, multiple muscle movements. So it's not just a simple thing, it clearly involves multiple body parts. And again, this can also go for vocal tics. Vocal tics can be super complex too, by singing phrases or things that aren't just a simple sound or a single word. So complex tics involve things happening all at once, all at the same time, and simple tics are very much basic and kind of one thing at a time. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the kind of categories of tics. And I guess without really explaining, let's just get into it. Again, just gonna preface, all tics are involuntary. We don't want to do them, we have to do them. So I got rice. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the LALIAs. So the LALIAs are all vocal tics. It's all a subcategory of vocal. Let's start off with PALILALIA. So to sum it up, PALILALIA is the repetition of one's own words. So for example, if I say something, my tics will repeat it until it feels right. Sometimes this PALILALIA can appear like a stammer or a stutter, but it's very, very different. And this typically manifests or presents itself in people with Tourette syndrome by repeating the last word of their sentence over and over again. And typically what happens, at least for me, is I'll repeat the word and it'll get more rapid in frequency, but also decrease in volume until it kind of fades out. Keep in mind, this is a repetition of your own words. So if you say something intentionally, you can also repeat that unintentionally because it's a weird mind thing, but PALILALIA is the involuntary repetition of our own words. It's super automatic and involuntary. All right, so the next LALIA tic is ECHOLALIA. ECHOLALIA is the involuntary repetition of another person's vocalizations or sounds, or I guess words or phrases. So I got rice. If someone with Tourette's hears something said by another individual, someone on TV, a friend, whatever, or if they even hear an animal make a sound like a dog bark or a cat meow, they will involuntarily repeat that word, sound, or phrase out loud. They'll verbalize it, they'll vocalize it. This can be super frustrating during conversations because if you're talking to someone, you might have to unintentionally repeat what they said back to them, and it's like, Arr. Something else to note that isn't always talked about is if you hear something once, it can also be echoed later. It doesn't have to be right then. Maybe even hours or days later, it can come back and be like, oh yeah, and you echo it. Now, one more thing I want to talk about with echolalia is that when people with Tourette syndrome or tics get together in groups, they can very, very easily pick up each other's vocal tics through this phenomena. For example, I've picked up a ton of British phrases due to my friends across the globe. I got rice, 20, 20, 20. Just keep in mind, these aren't my words, they're other people's words that I'm just repeating without meaning. They don't have any meaning. A way to remember this is it's echolalia, so it's pretty much the echoing of another person's words. So if you're ever struggling with the classifications, echolalia is echoing or repeating or copying. So the final one in the lalia phenomena is coprolalia. And you guys know my thoughts on this, and even if you don't know anything about my channel or Tourette syndrome, you likely heard of coprolalia. This is the tic that the media has focused on and fixated on surrounding Tourette syndrome because it's known as the swearing tic. It's the involuntary vocalization of unacceptable content. I got it. This can be obscene content, vulgar content, sexually explicit content, slurs, whatever, just things you do not want to be caught saying. Stuff you just do not want to be saying out loud and you're saying them. As I said, this is known as the swearing tic, the one the media has so focused on and fixated on. And something that I want to talk about though is that it's very rare in people with Tourette syndrome. I've experienced it here and there, but it hasn't stuck for me and I'm super lucky. And in other people with Tourette syndrome, in all of the cases, coprolalia only is evident in about 10 to 15% of people diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. So it's a super small number, and I don't know why the media has like fixated on that, but it's something that we can't control either. We don't want to be saying these things, we have to. This can obviously make situations super awkward and uncomfortable. And like I said, we have to say it. It's not that we want to. We don't want to be swearing at you. We don't mean to be. It just comes out. All right, the next classifications we're going into are the praxia tics. And these ones relate to the motor tics that we talked about originally. So we'll start off with palipraxia. Palipraxia is the same as palilalia, but think of motor tics. It's a complex tic that involves the repetition of one's own movements. An example of this that I always like to talk about is if I go to scratch my face intentionally, my tics will repeat the scratch unintentionally. And that's kind of hard to get your mind around, but hear me out. It's like you can do a movement that is either super intentional or super unintentional, and your tics will repeat it no matter what. You don't want to, you just have to. Usually this happens to me with itching or blinking. If I catch myself scratching and then I'm like, oh, and then I scratch again, even if it's not itchy, it's just the movement I have to repeat. Or if I catch myself blinking and I realize like, oh, I'm blinking, I'll automatically start blinking harder and more rapidly because it's just, I don't know, it's a tic. So that's kind of palipraxia defined very poorly but briefly. The next praxia phenomena is echopraxia, which is the same as echolalia, but think motor tics, physical tics. It is another complex tic that involves the involuntary repetition of another person's movements or actions. Kind of think of it as like an imitation or a copying, but we're not meaning to do it. A way that I've kind of thought to explain this that doesn't really make sense, but kind of I got rice, but kind of does, is thinking of the game Simon Says. If you're playing with multiple people and someone says, Simon says, touch your nose, and they all touch their nose, you're automatically gonna touch your nose too. But think of this in a non-tic setting. If you see someone touching their nose, you're gonna be like this too, because you saw it and you have to do it. It's totally unintentional, and now this is PALIPRAXIA. But I got rice. But this can be happening if you're with someone in person, or if you're watching something on TV, or even if you're with another ticker. If you see someone doing a movement, something in your brain is like, let's do this movement, super unintentional and not meaning to. And it's pretty much, again, just the echoing or mirroring of another person's movements and copying and just being The next one on the list of praxia is COPROPRAXIA, which is the physical form of COPROLALIA, the swearing tic. So hear me out, this one's a doozy. This is where people make inappropriate gestures, obscene movements, or this can even include inappropriate touching. One of the best examples I can give to this is flipping someone off or giving someone the middle finger. It's completely unintentional and we don't want to do it. It's just a physical manifestation of this urge we're getting. And again, we don't want to be flipping you off. It's just something we do. And we're not meaning this. Like this, I don't mean this. Please don't go. Like, I love you guys. It's just something we have to do. All right, now we're going into the GRAPHIA tics. GRAPHIA tics are tics in the form of writing, typing, drawing, or tracing. These ones are pretty much less known, and I have a whole YouTube series on this in a playlist, so I'll link it up there if you want to learn more in depth about the GRAPHIA tics. So starting off, PALIGRAPHIA. PALIGRAPHIA is the involuntary repetition of writing your own words or thoughts. Again, the PALI-tics focus on repeating things that are your own. An example of this is if you're in school and you're writing in a journal and you're like, today is a good day. You might repeat this instead by saying today is a good day, and write day multiple times on your page without intending to. Typically this manifests in the way of writing the end of a sentence, writing a word repetitively at the end of a sentence, like I just said. The next one is ECHOGRAPHIA, which again is the involuntary repetition through writing of another person's words. How this manifests for me is if I hear someone talking, I will definitely unintentionally and subconsciously be tracing with my fingers everything they're saying on my thigh, or even just select words. And if I have a journal or paper with me, sometimes I'll unintentionally transcribe what they're saying on the page. It's literally the copying of another person's words on paper, or texting, or through drawing or writing, just copying someone else's things in the form of like writing or typing or drawing or tracing. You don't think about it and it just happens. All right, COPROGRAPHIA, which is the, you guessed it, the written form of COPROLALIA, the swearing tic. This is the involuntary drawing, writing, tracing, or typing of socially unacceptable content. Again, the prefix copros means feces, and this kind of just shows like, oh, this is bad. Feces is poop, we don't want it. This is stuff you definitely don't want to be having caught on your page at school or work, but we can't control it. Someone may be drawing a sensitive piece such as, I don't know, a gun killing someone, I don't know, on their page, and someone sees it and it's completely involuntary. They did not mean to draw this at all, and it's just on their page. I deal with this in the way that I write the F word over and over again. I trace it, or sometimes I write it on paper and then immediately crumple it because I'm like, oh my gosh. And we don't mean to do this, it just happens without realizing it. I got rice. Okay, the final ones in this series are the SKEPSI tics, also known as the mental tics. These all happen within our internal dialogue, or the thoughts within our own mind. These are thoughts we can't control and are super similar to the intrusive thoughts that people with OCD or other mental disorders experience. The suffix skepsi means to think, which clearly shows that these are mental tics. I got rice. 2020. So, PALISKEPSI is the repetition of one's own thoughts in their head over and over again. Just kind of like PALILALIA, but in the mind. You may be repeating one word or thought over and over again without intention at all, and it just goes on for hours. For me, how this manifests is sometimes I think of a word and I put different stresses on the word in my brain until I get it right. And again, these thoughts are technically your own, but you're not consciously thinking them. They're not wanted. They're something you've thought before, but they're just repeating. An example of this for me is I'll often repeat the word rutabaga in my brain. Just rutabaga, over and over again, no stopping, just rutabaga. And I repeat it with different stresses on the word, I repeat it with different accents in my brain. It's just a word I repeat constantly. And I've previously thought this word, so it's my own thought, but I'll be repeating it. I also constantly am repeating the names of my dad's coworkers in my brain because that's a thing. And ugh, Skepsi tics can make it extremely hard to focus. I got rice. All right, the next one is ECHOSKEPSI, and you guessed it, ECHOSKEPSI is the echoing of someone else's words in your thoughts. Unlike PALISKEPSI, these thoughts are not your own. They're again just an echo of someone else's words or phrases. You may mentally be repeating the words of a friend, or something you've heard on TV, or lyrics to a song, or a sound until it feels right. An example of this is if you hear a conversation between two individuals, someone says, "How are you?" The other person says, "I'm good, I'm good, I'm good." You might be repeating in your brain, "I'm good, I'm good, I'm good," over and over again. And this is super unintentional, you're not meaning to. It's just being repeated in your brain without intention. This can also make it super difficult to think or even to talk. The final one on my list is COPROSKEPSI, which is the mental form of the swearing tic COPROLALIA. This tic causes individuals to repeat swear words, obscene content, or socially unacceptable things in their head without meaning to. Just other ideas that are socially unacceptable or inappropriate or wrong. These can go on our minds in a loop with no real prompts or triggers at all. They have no associated meaning, they're just going through our heads. COPROSKEPSI is most commonly confused with intrusive thoughts in the Skepsi phenomena because it's just unwanted. We don't want to be thinking these things at all. And they're inappropriate, which makes us feel guilty and bad, but they're not our fault. They're so disruptive and so unwanted. I deal with this one a lot, honestly, and it's brutal. Sometimes I'll have the F word on repeat in my head over and over again, not meaning it. It has no meaning. I'm not mad, I'm not upset. It's just there. And sometimes I have to give in and actually whisper it, which is something people don't always talk about. Skepsi tics can lead to vocal tics because it's just a constant nagging in your brain. And sometimes if you feel like, oh, I have to get this out, if you vocalize it or verbalize it, maybe it'll be better. Most of the time it's not, but that's a thing people don't always talk about. So there you have it. This video is probably ridiculously long, but I wanted to do a brief rundown all about tics for my viewers because we've reached 1,000 subscribers and I think I want to just provide more education and awareness for you guys because that's my goal, it's my passion. So as I've said before, if you want to stay tuned to educational content as well as some of my life stories of living with Tourette Syndrome for over 10 years, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you know whenever I upload, and just, yeah, I would really appreciate that. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned anything, or if you liked it and want to get it across. Feel free to share this with your friends if they need to know about tics, or if you want to just say, like, if you have tics and want people to know about them, this is a pretty comprehensive guide, so share this if you'd like. And leave a comment down below saying hi, telling me what you want to see in future videos, or letting me know which of these tics phenomena are your least favorite or your favorite, I don't know. Just let me know what you think. As always, I got rice. As always, we're learning together, we're laughing together, and we're ticking together. Hi. Hi. We're going. I got rice. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for learning with me. Have a great night. See you next time.